Hello, and welcome to the Governance Discourse, your podcast where we have conversations about everything governance, from leadership, politics, public policy, civic engagement, and civic participation. This is where we break down all the latest policies, reforms, conversations about elections, and today we're discussing about the reserve seat bill for women. It's also called the special seat for women. And on this pod, I will break down what the reserve seat is, why it is, and just kind of give you like an understanding A to Z about what the reserve seat is about. So get your coffee, get your tea, get your drink, whatever you need to stay energized, and come with me on this journey as I discuss the reserve seat. Right. So let's get right into it. So the reserve seat bill for women is aimed at creating more seats for women at the National Assembly and the State House of Assembly as well. So the National Assembly, you have the Senate and you have the House of Representatives, and at the State House of Representatives is also trying to create more seats for women, right? So let's do it like a breakdown. Let's go back in history and see why this bill is important and why it's being championed. So presently, now in the National Assembly, and basically the ranking of legislators in Nigeria is really low. It's less than 3%, right? So I'll give an instance. In the Senate, right, we have 109 members. And out of that 109 members, that's 109 members, only four are women. Only four. So imagine 109 and you have only four that are women. Senator Natasha faced a suspension. So while she was on suspension, the Senate had only three women. So why is this important? If decisions are being made about women, if women are trying to pass a policy or a bill at the National Assembly, let's just give an instance like the Senate has, women are trying to pass a bill in the Senate. Just imagine that they only have three women, meaning they have to do a lot of lobbying to get their fellow male senators to agree to push the bill. But just imagine if you had more women, it's the louder voice that you would hear, more women being able to champion bills that would benefit women and also the nation as well in the house. But I just use the example to show us how we are really, really backing the numbers, right? So this bill is trying to address this, right? To kind of resolve this challenge that we're having to increase the number of seats for women. So I'll get to it, but let's go back. So presently, Nigeria is having a constitutional reform. So we're trying to review our constitution. There's the electoral reform and there's the reserve seat bill. So women are championing that additional seats be created for women. Okay, so this means that more seats will be created for women. So they are not taking on the existing seats. So, like in the Senate, you have 109 seats, right? So the women are not saying reserve seats for us in 109. No, they're saying create additional seats for women, right? And they are saying women can still run for the 109 seats. So I'll keep on using the Senate because the numbers, right? So you have 109 seats. For the Senate, right? They're trying to create one seat per state. So additional one seat in the Senate for women, right? So every state in the Senate already has three seats, right? Three senatorial seats. Now you're trying to create additional one for women, right? So that means 37, including the FCT. Remember that this includes the FCT. So additional seats. So 37 seats for women in the Senate, right? While in the House of Representatives, you have 360 members, right? they're creating additional seats for women, which is 1 seat per state, including the FCT. So you have a total number of 37 new seats. These are reserved for women. When we say reserved for women, that means only women will contest. And the key word there is contest. So you're not appointing to say, oh, they have reserved this seat for women. Now, any woman that wants to hold a position can come out from it. No, that's not what the bill is saying. The bill is saying that it will be contested. That means women will come out and campaign, and they would campaign for votes from the electorate, and the electorate will vote them into those seats. For the state houses of assembly, they are creating 3 additional seats for each state house of assembly, right? The aim of this is to increase the voices of women, because in the Senate, in the National Assembly, in the House of Reps, in the State House of Representatives, it's kind of, we're trying to aim at increasing the quota of women in politics. This would also allow women to, get more involved in politics, because they know that these seats, especially for women, and women would champion it. Why does it matter, right? Nigeria ranks 184 out of 187 countries. The statistics is low. We need more representation of women in politics, because when women are in politics, they will champion policies that protect women, protect girls, protect other vulnerable groups, and they would also push out bills and policies that would champion and help nation development and sustainability as well, right? So I already talked about the impact it will have in the Senate, impact to the House of Representatives, the State House of Representatives. You have a larger number. Um, this, so like I was saying earlier, for this seat, women can contest for other seats. So because women have this reserve seat, doesn't mean they cannot contest for other seats. So in the Senate, they can still contest for the 109 seats. For the House of Representatives, they can still contest for the 360 seats, and they can still contest at the State House of Assembly. So if any woman decides that she wants to run for election, but she still wants to campaign not for the reserved seats for women, she can still go ahead to campaign for the other seats. It doesn't stop any female candidate from doing so. Another thing, that this is a temporal measure. I think it's key to highlight that it's a temporal measure. So it doesn't mean that this is the permanent solution to addressing the low representation of women in the National Assembly and State House of Assembly. So basically, women in parliament. It just means that this is a temporal measure to kind of stir up and motivate more women to come into politics, to also create access for more women to come in, right? It's a temporal measure that will run for 16 years. So that means 4 election cycle. And after that, it will be reconsidered if it will still be kept or if it will be removed at that point. Like I stated, there's also going to be direct election. So that means women will contest for those seats. It is not tokenism where women will just be handed those seats. No, women have to contest. Women have to go out and get the votes from the electorate. And on election day, it will be voted for the women constituency seats, kind of. I know a lot of people will say, isn't this going to cost Nigeria more money? Why are we reserving more seats for women? Women should come out to contest. Some people also say, you know what, these seats, nothing has stopped women from coming out to contest. But honestly, there are certain social, economic challenges that women face that prevent them from running from office. And I mean, we have already like stated this for over many years. But what people are trying to do, what women are trying to champion with the reserve seat bill, is women are like affirmative action is taken to ensure that more women come into politics, especially in the parliament. And this has worked in other countries, right? Other countries like Uganda, India, Tanzania are already having policies to reserve seats for women, to ensure that more women come into politics. So this has been successful elsewhere. It's not that Nigeria is starting it or Nigeria is testing it, right? And they're also where people talk about like the budget. Where's this money going to come from? But it's just less than 1% of the Nigerian budget that will be used to ensure that more women come into politics. So in the later part of this podcast, I will do a breakdown where we'll look at the bill itself, review the sections, we'll go section by section to review the different sections that are to be included in the bill. So it gives us like a clear picture, and I'm going to use my favorite digital tool, Legit 360, to show you how it works whenever I do a bill review, and we'll see the bill and then we'll go over it as well. So it will give you like a better picture of what changes are being trying to make in the constitution. So we'll see the exact provisions of the constitution where these changes are to be made. So one thing again that is most important is how can you get involved, right? The first thing is to educate yourself about the reserve seat bill. If you've reached this point where you've watched this episode till this level, congratulations. Thank you for listening and watching attentively. You can now educate someone else about the provisions of the Reserve Seat Bill and what it aims to do. So starting up with raising awareness and educating people, you can host an Instagram live and an X space, just a webinar, a conversation, bring experts into the room to talk about why the Reserve Seat Bill is important. You can also just use your social media to raise awareness. You can tweet about it using the hashtag the Reserve Seat Bill or the HB1349 as is known. It's also good to state that this bill is sponsored by the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Ben Kalu, and others. I think 14 others are supporting this bill as well. You can tweet about it. You can share to others the podcast as well for them to be able to learn and get to understand the provisions of the Reserve Seat Bill, right? You can most importantly attend the public hearing. So this month, September 22nd, is a Monday. There's going to be a public hearing on the Reserve Seat Bill. You should attend. Yes, you and I, we should attend and add our voices to the Reserve Seat Bill. Push, pressurize to ensure that the Reserve Seat is passed, right? Another thing that we can do is to engage our lawmakers. You can write to them, you can write an open letter, just basically raise awareness about the Reserve Seat Bill. Have a conversation with your member so when they come to the voting process, they'll be able to vote to support the bill, right? Another thing that we need to do is what? Support women. When women come out for these elections, when the reserve seat is passed, or keeping our fingers crossed that the reserve seat bill will be signed into law and it will pass. And when women come out to vote, support women who come out, who take that courage to come out to run for office, because a vote for a woman is a vote for improving our nation, development, and ensuring sustainability of our country. So let's ensure that we support women when they do come out to vote. Remember, the public hearing again is coming out. It's been going to be hosted September 22nd, is a Monday, and you should come out to add your voices. Use social media to champion the reserve seat bill. You can just tweet "I support the reserve seat bill" and raise awareness about this bill. Educate others so they know why this bill is about, right? And thank you for listening to the podcast.